Worldwide deaths from the coronavirus now have climbed to over 1,000. They've passed the total fatalities from the SARS virus that surfaced nearly 2 decades ago. Let's bring in our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, the fact that there are now more fatalities than SARS, what does that tell us about where this virus is heading?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously disappointing news, but not entirely surprising as we've been watching these numbers grow, certainly over the last few weeks. I think what it tells us is that this is it's a far more transmissible, easy to spread virus as compared to SARS. The number of deaths have increased as well, but the number of cases have increased far more than the number of deaths have as compared to SARS. So what you have is, you can take a look at the numbers there, 40,000 plus infections, and I think it's close to 1,000 deaths now. But it's really the ratio of those two numbers that you should pay attention to, deaths to infections. On the left with SARS, it's closer to 10%. With this, it's closer to 2.5%. And one thing, Wolf, and I know you've heard this as well, but researchers in Hong Kong are saying, look, there could be tens of thousands more than even these 40,000 people who are infected. And that might sound disappointing, but the reality is that if those other people who are infected are not showing any symptoms or only minimal symptoms, that would bring down this fatality ratio even more. What public health officials are focusing on the most are two things. Let me show you this box. If you look at the x-axis there, that is how lethal this virus is, and the bottom line, the y-axis, is how transmissible. What you want to avoid, what you hope not to happen, is that this ends up in the D box, where it's both highly transmissible and highly lethal. Right now, thankfully, this new coronavirus seems to be more in the A box. It's a wide range. We still don't know exactly how contagious this is, and we don't know how lethal, but it's looking like this may end up feeling more like a bad cold or flu versus a lethal pandemic that spreads throughout the world. These are questions that still need to be answered. One more thing I just want to point out, a lot of discussion about these masks and other types of personal protective equipment. The demand for these types of masks have gone up 100 times. The price has gone up 20 times. Outside of healthcare settings, outside of that province in China, there's probably not a real role for these masks. I mean, if you look at it, you probably wouldn't be surprised to know that viral particles can maybe even go through the mask. They can certainly come around the edges. So for the most part, they're really not going to provide much benefit. It may be a reminder to avoid people who are sick or to not touch your own nose or mouth. But the best advice is to do the same things you would do to avoid the flu. Stay away from sick people, wash your hands as much as possible, don't touch your face as much as you can as well.
We understand everyone is anxious. Spending 14 days in small spaces is very difficult. So we need to take care of people, especially those with pre-existing conditions and the elderly. We're doing our best to be ready and test those who are higher risk first, and then bring them to special facilities should they test positive.
How challenging has this been for your government to try and deal with a problem that is not of your making?
This ship has many nationalities on board, so it's a problem involving many countries. They're all asking for our help, so we have to take responsibility for this. Our primary goal is to prevent a pandemic in our own country. But at the same time, we want everyone on board to get home safely. So Japan can't do this alone. We need lots of cooperation from other countries to make this work.
Animals are also at the front lines of this virus. Rescue groups say thousands of pets are stranded in Wuhan and are running out of food and water because their owners can't return home. Volunteers are being called to break into the houses to replenish supplies for the animals, some of which they say have been found close to starvation. Wuhan has been on lockdown for more than 2 weeks, and many pet owners who left for the Lunar New Year holiday, they did not plan to be away for that long.